Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive with us into current affairs. We got to stay on top of it, especially for those of you gearing up for the UPSC exams.
Definitely got to keep that knowledge fresh and relevant.
Exactly. So we're going to be focusing on all the need-to-know news from March 4th, 2025.
All right, sounds good. Let's get into it.
This is actually part one, so we've got a lot to cover.
Buckle up.
Yeah, you might recognize a few topics from some previous episodes.
Yeah, think of it as like a little bonus revision session, right?
Exactly. And if you're liking these deep dives, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for your daily dose of UPSC prep.
Gotta stay ahead of the game.
Okay, so first up, imagine owning a volcano.
Ooh, that's a scary thought.
Right, and an active one at that, and then it erupts. That's the situation unfolding with White Island in New Zealand.
Oh, wow. I vaguely remember hearing about this.
Yeah, so the owners were initially convicted after that really tragic 2019 eruption, but the New Zealand High Court just overturned that conviction.
Interesting. So what's the story with the ownership? Who owns a volcano?
All right, it's pretty unique, actually. White Island is privately owned by the Buttress family. They've held it since 1936.
Wow, since 1936. That's a long time to own a volcano.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And especially one as active as this. It's located in the Bay of Plenty, and it's New Zealand's most active cone volcano.
So when they say active, they mean active.
Yeah, and that 2019 eruption was absolutely devastating, claiming the lives of 22 people, mostly tourists and guides.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it was really tragic. And this whole legal back and forth, it really highlights those complexities of tourism and safety and responsibility when you're dealing with a force of nature like a volcano.
For sure. It's like, how do you even balance those things?
Yeah.
The tourism, the revenue with the potential dangers.
Exactly. It's a really
Yeah.
delicate balance. In this case, could have some, broader implications for how we manage tourism in those hazardous areas around the world.
Absolutely. A lot to think about there.
All right, let's switch gears now from a fiery volcano to a frosty moon landing.
Ooh. Okay. I like this transition.
Firefly Aerospace, a private company, just made history by landing their Blue Ghost lunar lander on the moon.
Wow. That's incredible. Private companies are really stepping up in the space race these days.
They are, and what's really fascinating here is this landing is part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, or CLPS.
CLPS, what does that stand for again?
It stands for Commercial Lunar Payload Services.
Right.
So basically, NASA is actively encouraging these private companies to get involved in lunar exploration, which could really change the game when it comes to space research.
Yeah, it's like opening up a whole new frontier for collaboration and innovation.
Exactly. And Blue Ghost isn't just up there taking selfies.
Hopefully they got a good shot, though.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
But it's carrying some serious scientific instruments. It's going to be studying lunar heat flow, which helps us understand the moon's thermal evolution.
So like how the moon's internal temperature has changed over time.
Exactly. And it's also going to be analyzing how the lunar surface reacts to the lander's engine plumes.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that important?
It's crucial for improving landing techniques for future missions. Making those landings smoother and safer.
Oh, I see. Makes sense.
And on top of all of that, it's going to be collecting data on the moon's magnetic and electric fields.
So adding to our understanding of the moon's geology.
Exactly. It's adding another piece to that puzzle of the moon's history.
It's amazing how much we're still learning about our own celestial neighbor.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's turn our attention to the Rushikulya River in Odisha.
Odisha back to Earth.
Back to Earth. It originates in the Daringbadi Hills and flows into the Bay of Bengal without forming a delta.
Without forming a delta, that's pretty unique, isn't it?
It is. Most rivers form deltas when they reach the sea, but not the Rushikulya.
So why is this river so important that we're talking about it?
Well, it's home to the Rushikulya Beach, which is a globally significant nesting site for olive ridley turtles.
Olive ridley turtles, those are the ones that do that mass nesting thing, right?
Exactly. It's called Arabada. Thousands of them come ashore simultaneously to lay their eggs.
Oh, I've seen videos of that. It's an incredible sight.
It is. And to protect these endangered turtles in their nests, forest officials have restricted entry along a 5-kilometer stretch near the river mouth.
That's great to hear. Those conservation efforts are so important.
These turtles face so many threats, so every measure to protect them is crucial.
Absolutely. From protecting wildlife to protecting vulnerable communities, the National Human Rights Commission is calling for an action taken report regarding alleged human rights violations against the Juanga Tribe in Odisha.
That's right, a very important issue. The Juanga are one of Odisha's 13 particularly vulnerable tribal groups, or PVTGs, mainly concentrated in Kianchar and Denkanal districts.
PVTGs, I've heard that term before, but can you remind me what it means?
Yeah, PVTGs are tribal groups that are particularly vulnerable due to their small population size and their relative isolation. They often face unique challenges when it comes to accessing resources and maintaining their cultural identity.
So the Juanga Tribe, they fall into that category.
They do, and they have a really unique culture. Traditionally, they wear clothing made from leaves called petuas.
Clothing made from leaves, that's fascinating.
It is their belief system also blends animistic traditions with Hindu influences.
So a mix of different belief systems.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's worth noting that the Wanga have had to adapt their traditional practices. They were primarily hunters and gatherers.
But that's not really sustainable anymore, especially with shrinking forests.
Right after their forest lands were declared reserves, they shifted to basket weaving as a source of livelihood.
So a way to adapt and still utilize their skills.
Exactly. But it also brings to light those complex challenges faced by tribal communities in a rapidly changing world.
For sure, trying to preserve their traditions while also finding ways to thrive in a modern society.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Shifting gears now to a pressing health concern. A recent study published in the Lancet Global Health Journal revealed some alarming findings about neonatal sepsis.
Neonatal sepsis, that sounds serious.
It's a blood infection that affects infants under 90 days old, and it can be incredibly dangerous.
So newborns are especially vulnerable.
They are, and this study found high mortality rates among newborns diagnosed with sepsis, which really underscores the need for early detection and treatment.
So what causes sepsis in newborns?
It can be caused by various bacteria, and it can manifest in two forms: early onset occurring within the first 72 hours of life, and late onset developing after 3 days.
So two different timelines, but both very dangerous.
Exactly. And the symptoms can be subtle, which is why awareness and timely intervention are so critical.
And I imagine this is a global concern.
It is. Unfortunately, it's a global concern with over 550,000 deaths annually. And India in particular carries a significant burden of neonatal sepsis cases.
So what can be done to address this?
Prompt treatment with antibiotics is crucial for improving survival rates. That's really the key.
Early detection and quick action.
Exactly.
Sure.
Right. Let's move now from health concerns to efficient governance. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, or MISHTI, just launched the Aadhaar Good Governance Portal.
Aadhaar Good Governance Portal, what's the purpose of that?
It aims to streamline the Aadhaar authentication process, building on those 2025 amendments to the Aadhaar Authentication for Good Governance rules.
So making the whole Aadhaar system more efficient.
Exactly. It's all about making things smoother for both citizens and the government.
And Aadhaar is used for so many things these days, right?
It is. It's becoming increasingly integrated into various services and benefits. So making the authentication process seamless is really important.
So this portal, how does it actually work?
It's designed to simplify the process for entities seeking authentication, improve service delivery, and potentially even integrate face authentication for private entities.
Face authentication, that's interesting.
It is. It could be a game changer for how Aadhaar is used in the future.
It raises some privacy concerns, though, doesn't it?
It does. And those concerns definitely need to be addressed, but it also has the potential to make things more secure and convenient.
It's a balance, finding that right balance between security, convenience, and privacy.
Absolutely. Okay, from streamlined governance to a green success story. Remember the MISHTI scheme we discussed before?
MISHTI Scheme vaguely rings a bell. Refresh my memory.
It stands for Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes.
Ah, yes. Mangroves. Those are important.
They are, and Gujarat is leading the way in mangrove afforestation under this initiative.
So they're really taking the lead in protecting coastal ecosystems.
They are. They've actually covered over 19,000 hectares with mangroves in just 2 years.
Wow, that's impressive.
The scheme focuses on crucial areas like the Sundarbans and the Hooghly Estuary, providing financial assistance to local communities, raising awareness, and even integrating with schemes like MGN EDGES and CAMPE for a truly comprehensive approach.
So it's not just about planting trees, it's about involving the communities and creating a sustainable model.
Exactly. It's a great example of how environmental conservation can go hand in hand with economic development.
A win-win situation.
Our time to revisit a location we discussed before, the Kawal Tiger Reserve in Telangana.
Oh yes, the one with the innovative water management system?
Exactly. They're using solar pumps to ensure a steady water supply for the wildlife.
Really taking advantage of technology to protect nature.
And it's located in a really fascinating region, serving as a catchment area for both the Godavari and Kadam rivers. The reserve represents a southern tropical, dry deciduous forest.
Dry deciduous, so that means distinct wet and dry seasons, right?
Exactly. During the dry season, the trees shed their leaves, creating a unique landscape.
And I imagine that impacts the types of plants and animals that can thrive there.
It does. The flora in this reserve is incredibly diverse. You'll find everything from teak and bamboo to species like Anagesis latifolia and Terminalia arjuna.
And lots of animals too, I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. The Kawal Tiger Reserve is home to nilgai choosing a chinkara, blackbuck, sambar, spotted deer, and of course the magnificent tigers and leopards.
It's like a wildlife enthusiast's dream.
It is. There's also a thriving population of wild dogs, wolves, jackals, foxes, and jungle cats. It's a reminder of how crucial these protected areas are for preserving biodiversity.
Absolutely. We need to protect these spaces for future generations.
And finally, let's wrap up this part with a fascinating discovery from the Western Ghats. Scientists have identified 2 new species of jumping spiders in the Shindurni Wildlife Sanctuary.
New spider species, how cool.
I know, right? They're called Epidelaxia falciformis and Epidelaxia palustris.
Those are some scientific names.
They belong to the genus Epidelaxia, which was previously thought to be endemic to Sri Lanka.
So this is a big deal for India.
It is. It marks the first record of this genus in the country.
So what makes these spiders so special?
They're quite distinctive. The females have a prominent yellow triangular mark, and both males and females have unique copulatory organs, making them stand out from other spider species.
So tiny but so unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the fact that even in well-explored areas like the Western Ghats, there's still so much more to discover about the natural world.
It makes you wonder what else is out there just waiting to be found.
It really does. And that's it for part 1 of our March 4th, 2025 Current Affairs Deep Dive.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground.
We did, from volcanic eruptions to lunar landings, from turtle conservation to tribal rights, and from public health to new species discoveries.
It's been quite a journey.
It has, but don't go anywhere, because in part 2, we'll delve into even more crucial news, breaking down the information in a way that's relevant and digestible for your UPSC preparations. So stay tuned.
We'll be back in a flash with more insightful analysis. Welcome back, everyone, for part 2 of our deep dive into those current affairs from March 4th, 2025. Lots more to unpack today.
Definitely. And remember, guys, this is all tailored to help you ace those UPSC exams, so stay tuned.
All right, let's jump right back in, shifting our focus from land and sky to the sea.
Okay, sounds good.
Have you heard of the Harpoon missile?
Yeah, the anti-ship missile, right?
That's the one. It's that all-weather, over-the-horizon anti-ship missile developed by Boeing.
And it's been around for a while, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been a mainstay in naval warfare since 1977, used by over 30 countries, including India.
Wow, so it's a pretty big deal.
It is. It can be launched from ships, submarines, shore batteries, even aircraft, so it's pretty versatile.
Okay, so what's the news with the Harpoon?
Well, get this. The U.S. Air Force is considering equipping their F-16 fighter jets with Harpoon missiles.
Interesting, so like a new way to use it.
Exactly. It could significantly change how they approach naval warfare.
So how have they been using it before?
Traditionally, they've relied on dedicated naval platforms like warships or specialized aircraft like the P-8 Poseidon for those anti-ship capabilities.
But now they're thinking of using fighter jets.
Right. By equipping F-16s with harpoons, they'd have a more versatile and readily available option for targeting enemy ships.
So it's like expanding their options.
Exactly, and it adds a whole new dimension to air power projection. Could have major implications for maritime strategy.
Wow, a lot of potential changes there.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, so speaking of strategic locations, let's go back to the Kawal Tiger Reserve in Telangana for a moment.
Back to the tigers.
We discussed its innovative water management system earlier, but the reserve itself has a lot more to offer.
Right. It's not just about the water.
Exactly. It's a prime example of a southern tropical, dry, deciduous forest.
Okay. Remind me what that means again?
It's a type of habitat that thrives in regions with distinct wet and dry seasons. So during the dry season, the trees shed their leaves, creating a very unique landscape.
Right. Right. And this type of forest is crucial for maintaining the ecological balance of the region, right?
Exactly. It acts as a catchment area for both the Godavari and Kannam rivers.
Okay, so playing a vital role in water management too.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the plants and animals.
Okay, I'm ready for a wildlife tour.
The flora in this reserve is incredibly diverse. You'll find everything from teak and bamboo to species like Anagesis latifolia and Terminalia arjuna.
Those are some mouthful names.
They are, but they're important for the ecosystem. And the fauna is just as impressive.
Okay, hit me with the animal list.
The Kawal Tiger Reserve is home to nilgai chousing chinkara, blackbuck, sambar, spotted deer, and of course the magnificent tigers and leopards.
Oh, quite a variety.
There's also a thriving population of wild dogs, wolves, jackals, foxes, and jungle cats.
It's like a mini ecosystem all in one place.
It is, and it's a reminder of how crucial these protected areas are for preserving biodiversity.
Couldn't agree more. We need more of these protected spaces.
And it's important to note that the Kawal Tiger Reserve isn't isolated. It's geographically linked to the Tadoba Antari Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra and the Indravati Tiger Reserve in Chhattisgarh.
Creating a corridor for wildlife movement.
Exactly, that connectivity is essential for the long-term survival of these species.
It's all about thinking bigger picture, right?
Absolutely. All right, now let's move on to a topic that's all about good governance and efficient service delivery, the Aadhaar system.
Aadhaar, that 12-digit unique ID number, right?
That's it. It's essentially India's digital identity system.
Yeah. And it's used for so many things.
It's issued to every resident by the Unique Identification Authority of India, or UIDI.
Right, UIDI.
And it plays a huge role in ensuring targeted delivery of government subsidies and benefits.
So making sure the right people get the right resources?
Exactly. And the recently launched Aadhaar Good Governance Portal is a step towards streamlining this process even further.
We talked about this a little bit earlier, right?
We did. If
Yeah.
you recall, we mentioned those 2025 amendments to the Aadhaar Authentication for Good Governance rules. This portal is a direct result of those changes.
So it's about putting those changes into action.
Exactly. And it aims to simplify the authentication process for government agencies and citizens.
Leading to better service delivery, hopefully.
That's the goal. And also reducing delays and minimizing fraud.
So more efficiency and less chance of misuse.
Exactly. And remember that potential integration of face authentication.
Yeah, that could change things up.
It could add another layer of security and convenience, but it also raises those questions about data privacy.
All right, the technology is advancing, but we need to make sure it's used responsibly.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, shifting gears to a success story in environmental conservation, let's revisit the MISHTI scheme.
MISHTI, again, what does that stand for?
Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes.
Right. Mangroves in Gujarat has been doing remarkably well under this initiative.
They have covered a remarkable 19,020 hectares with mangroves in just 2 years.
That's exceeding expectations for sure.
It is. It really showcases their dedication to protecting these vital ecosystems.
And mangroves are so important for coastal protection, right?
They are. They act as natural buffers against erosion storms and rising sea levels.
And they're also crucial for biodiversity, providing habitats for various marine and terrestrial species.
Absolutely. And let's not forget their role in mitigating climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Right, they're like natural carbon sinks.
Exactly. And the MISHTI scheme goes beyond just planting. It empowers local communities by providing financial assistance for their participation in mangrove plantation and restoration activities.
So it's creating jobs and supporting livelihoods while also protecting the environment?
Exactly. And it integrates with existing schemes like MG&RAY-GS and CAMPAY, creating a multifaceted approach to both environmental and socioeconomic well-being.
So a truly holistic approach.
Exactly. That integration is key to the long-term success of any conservation effort.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's move on to our last topic in this part, switching to public health, but with a global perspective this time.
Okay. Sounds good.
A recent study published in the Lancet Global Health Journal has shed light on a worrying trend. A significant number of newborns diagnosed with sepsis are not surviving.
Neonatal sepsis, we talked about this earlier, right?
Yeah.
It's that blood infection affecting infants under 90 days old.
Right, a very serious condition.
And the study revealed that over a third of newborns diagnosed with sepsis could die.
Wow, that's a startling statistic.
It highlights the urgent need for improved prevention diagnosis and treatment strategies worldwide.
So this is a global issue, not just limited to a specific region.
Exactly. It affects countries all over the world, and early detection is critical.
Of course, the sooner you catch it, the better the chances of survival.
Right. Prompt treatment with intravenous antibiotics is often the only way to save a baby's life.
But like we said earlier, the symptoms can be subtle.
They can, which is why awareness among healthcare providers and parents is so important.
Absolutely. They need to know what to look for.
And this issue disproportionately affects developing countries.
Where access to healthcare might be limited?
Exactly. Access to quality healthcare and essential resources can be a major challenge.
So addressing this challenge requires a multi-pronged approach.
Definitely, it's not a simple fix.
Things like improving hygiene practices, ensuring timely access to skilled birth attendants, and strengthening healthcare systems overall.
So a combination of prevention, early detection, and effective treatment.
Right. It's a global problem that requires coordinated efforts from governments, healthcare providers, and communities to protect the most vulnerable among us.
Absolutely. It's about coming together to ensure the well-being of these tiny humans.
And with that crucial reminder, we'll move on to part 3, where we'll uncover more insightful current affairs, providing you with valuable perspectives for your UPSC preparations.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the final stretch of our March 4th, 2025 Current Affairs Deep Dive. We've got some really interesting stuff lined up for this last part.
Definitely saving the best for last.
It's all about connecting the dots, right? Like how these individual events tie into the bigger picture.
Exactly, because remember, the UPSC exam isn't just about knowing the facts, it's about understanding the why behind them, the context, the implications.
Absolutely. So let's jump back into international affairs with a story that really highlights how warfare is evolving.
Okay, sounds good.
Remember the U.S. Air Force considering putting those Harpoon missiles on their F-16 fighter jets?
Oh, yeah, that could be a game changer.
It could. The Harpoon, with its range of over 90 kilometers, has traditionally been launched from ships or aircraft like the P-8 Poseidon.
Right, more specialized platforms.
But now imagine those F-16s, already super versatile aircraft, armed with these powerful anti-ship missiles. It gives them a whole new level of flexibility and reach.
It's like adding another tool to their arsenal.
Exactly. And it could have some big implications for regional security calculations, particularly in areas like the Indo-Pacific.
Right, other countries will be watching this very closely.
Absolutely. It's a move that would shift the balance of power in some key regions.
And it really makes you think about how technology is constantly changing the face of warfare.
It does. It's a constant evolution.
Okay, speaking of strategic considerations, let's go back to the Kawal Tiger Reserve in Telangana for a moment.
Back to the tigers.
We've talked about their water management techniques and the amazing biodiversity they protect, but there's another layer we should explore: its role in a larger conservation network.
It's not just an isolated island of biodiversity, right?
Right, it's all connected. The Kawal Tiger Reserve is actually linked to the Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve in Maharashtra and the Indravati Tiger Reserve in Chhattisgarh.
So it's part of a bigger system.
It's exactly forming this crucial corridor for wildlife movement.
Those corridors are so important.
They allow animals to move freely between those protected areas, which is vital for maintaining healthy gene pools and ensuring those species like the tiger can survive long term.
It's like creating safe pathways for them to roam and thrive.
Exactly. And it highlights how important it is to think beyond borders when it comes to conservation.
Not just protecting individual areas, but creating a whole network.
Right. A network of interconnected spaces that support the movement and survival of wildlife.
Okay, now let's switch gears to a development that could have a huge impact on how India has governed the launch of that Aadhaar Good Governance Portal.
We talked about this earlier, but it's worth revisiting.
Definitely, because it has the potential to really change things up. This portal developed by MISHTI is all about streamlining the Aadhaar authentication process, which, as we know, plays a big role in the delivery of government services and benefits.
So making things more efficient and transparent?
Exactly. By making authentication smoother, the portal aims to reduce delays, prevent fraud, and improve the overall efficiency of service delivery.
It's about making life easier for everyone involved.
Exactly. And remember that possibility of integrating face authentication.
Oh, yeah, that could add another layer of complexity.
It could be super convenient, but it also raises those important questions about data privacy and how that technology will be managed responsibly.
It's a classic example of how technological advancements come with both opportunities and challenges.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Okay, let's end on a positive note. Shall we shifting to another success story in environmental conservation?
I'm all for it.
Remember the MISHTI scheme we discussed earlier?
The Mangrove Initiative?
That's the one. And it's been incredibly successful in Gujarat. Over 19,000 hectares of mangroves planted in just 2 years.
Those numbers are impressive.
They are, but it's not just about the numbers. It's about how it was achieved. The MISHTI scheme really focuses on involving local communities.
Empowering them to be part of the solution.
Exactly. Providing them with financial incentives and fostering a sense of ownership over those restoration efforts.
And it's been really effective.
It shows that conservation works best when it goes hand in hand with empowering the people who depend on those ecosystems.
It's a win-win for everyone.
And to wrap up our deep dive, let's go back to the discovery of those 2 new spider species in the Western Ghats.
Epidelaxia falciformis and Epidelaxia palustris.
Yeah. Those names might be a mouthful, but their discovery reminds us that there's still so much we don't know about the natural world.
even in places we think we've explored thoroughly.
Every new species discovered could hold potential benefits for humanity, new medicines, new technologies, who knows?
Like a treasure trove of possibilities.
And protecting biodiversity isn't just about preserving beautiful landscapes. It's about safeguarding that vast library of knowledge and potential solutions to the challenges we face.
Absolutely well said. So that concludes our deep dive into the most important current affairs from March 4th, 2025. We covered a lot of ground today.
We did local, national, global issues. It's all connected.
And remember, as you prepare for those UPSC exams, think critically, connect the dots, and consider the implications for India's future.
And if you found this deep dive helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on all things UPSC. Until next time, happy studying.
We'll be back with more insightful analysis soon. Keep those brains sharp.